Hi everyone, this is lesson number 45 in the series of British literature in English. Today, in this lesson, we shall discuss Faerie Queene. In this series of British literature, previously we discussed Edmund Spenser and then we discussed his first major work, that is Shepherd's Calendar. And now in Faerie Queene, we have the two volumes of this book published. The first volume was published in the year 1519 and then the next was in 1596. In the first volume there were the three books, book 1, 2 and 3, and in the second volume there were three more books, book 4, 5 and 6. So now collectively we have 6 books. In fact, in this Faerie Queene as a whole of the collection we have 7 books and the 7th book is also incomplete. Now what is the whole story behind this? In this book we have a preface, and in fact that preface contains a letter, and that letter is written to Sir Walter Raleigh. Who is Sir Walter Raleigh? Try to recall that he is a famous sea traveller during the age of Queen Elizabeth. And in that letter Edmund Spenser mentioned that he is intended to write 24 books of this Faerie Queene as a collection, and the first 12 books would be on the virtues of the knights, the 12 knights of the King Arthur, and the rest 12 books will be on the public virtues, and each of the book will contain a story. So he was planning 24 books but he could only manage 6 books, and in the year 1599 he died. And after his death, the 7th book that was incomplete, that was also published. In that letter, there is a segment where he wrote, "Entire epic poem is cloudily enwrapped in allegorical devices. An aim behind Faerie Queene is to fashion a gentleman or a noble person in virtues and gentle discipline." So this really suggests that he was intended to present virtues and merits of human life. Now, this book is a perfect example of his great class of writing because this book contains more than 36,000 lines. So this is a great example of epic poetry as well. In the past years, there were several questions asked from Faerie Queene, and they suggest that there is no point going deep into the detail of each of the book, though we shall consider the main plot line and also the important characters in each of the book, but there is no point going deep into the detail. But first there are several literary facts, so we should note down these points. The first is that this book is written in Spenserian stanza. So now what is Spenserian stanza? If you have gone through the first video on Edmund Spenser, in that I have explained that what is Spenserian sonnet, the rhyme scheme of the Spenserian sonnet, and what is the Spenserian stanza. Again I tell you that the Spenserian stanza is of 9 lines. The first 8 lines in iambic pentameter and with the rhyme scheme of ABAB, BC, BC, and the last line, the 9th line, is in iambic hexameter with the rhyme scheme of C. Whereas the Spenserian sonnet, in that sonnet we have 14 lines. So the first 8 lines with the same rhyme scheme, ABAB, BC, BC, and then CD, CD, and the last 2 lines EE. That is the Spenserian sonnet. So remember, Faerie Queene is written in Spenserian stanza of 9 lines. The next point, as I already mentioned, that each of the book is presenting the virtues. So we have 6 virtues in these books: the virtue of holiness, temperance, chastity, friendship, justice, and courtesy in these 6 books. And the 7th book that is incomplete, and the name of that book is The Cantos of Mutability, and in that book we have the virtue of constancy. So constancy means from the word constant we have means unchanging, dependable and faithful. The next point is that who is representing the character of the Queen Elizabeth. There are two characters in this book. We have the first is the Faerie Queen, and her name is Gloriana. From the word glory, the name is Gloriana, and the second character is Belphoebe. So remember, the two characters Gloriana and Belphoebe are representing the Queen Elizabeth. Now we have the next point, that when she found this book, when she got this book and she read, and she was quite impressed with the writing of Edmund Spenser, and she granted a pension of $50 a year for him. So during that time it was a great and royal patronage for a writer to receive that amount of pension. The next point, that what is the source of these virtues for Edmund Spenser? We have Aristotle's works, and it is said that the Aristotle's works or writings serves as a source for all these virtues which are presented in Faerie Queene. And one last point, under whose influence Edmund Spenser wrote this book? So that is Thomas Aquinas. In fact, Thomas Aquinas was a priest, Italian priest in the 13th century. And in fact, on this Faerie Queene, we have the impression or the influence of the Italian works. And one of them is an Italian poem, that is Orlando Furioso, and that was written by Ludovico Ariosto. So this book, Faerie Queene, is influenced by the Italian poems and the Italian priest. So remember these names. You must be feeling that it is a tiring or frustrating job to write these sort of facts. But you should write these facts, and when you go through these facts once or twice, that's enough. In the future you need not mug up these sort of things, because when we go through such names, I believe that whenever there comes a question in the paper, then there will be possibly a hint which could lead you to that right option, and that's where your memory will also work to recall such points. So now we come to the main plot line. So as I mentioned that we will not go deep into the plot, but we shall discuss each of the book one by one and their important characters and the main plot line. So in each of the book, remember, the central character is the King Arthur, and in book 1, that is with the virtue of holiness, as I mentioned, and the main character on which the virtue of holiness is applied, that is Red Cross Knight. So he is among the 12 knights of the King Arthur, and he has his love interest Una, the lady Una. And there are some evil characters like the dragon Error, evil wizard Archimago, and then a female evil character Duessa and Lucifer. The Red Cross Knight falls a victim to the evil wizard Archimago, and he tricks him to go into lovemaking with Duessa. So both Red Cross Knight and the evil character Duessa, they consummate, and as a result Red Cross Knight become weak and he could not fight with the giant Orgoglio. And then King Arthur and Una, they helped Red Cross Knight to gain his strength in the house of holiness. And who is the owner or the ruler of the house? We have Dame Kalia. Remember this name because this was asked in the UGC NET exam, that who is the owner of this house of holiness? We have Dame Kalia and her 3 daughters. And then in the end we have Red Cross Knight winning all the battles and getting the reward from the Una's parents, that is the hand of Una for marriage and also the kingdom of her parents. So that is the story of book 1. So the central character Red Cross Knight and the virtue of holiness. In the book 2 we have Sir Gawain and the virtue of temperance. Temperance means when someone is controlling his all desires, especially the evil desires for lust, for sex, for greed, for anger, And here we have Sir Gawain facing a witch. The name is Acrasia. So similar sort of pattern. In book 1 we have Red Cross Knight facing Duessa, Archimago or Lucifer. But here we have Sir Gawain facing a witch. Name is Acrasia. So now Acrasia with her magical powers take him to the Bower of Bliss. Bower of Bliss, a place, and there she turns him into a beast with magic. And later King Arthur helps Sir Gawain to recover from the effects of the witch, and later Sir Gawain takes his revenge. So that's how the book 2 ends. In the book 2 we have Sir Gawain and the evil character Acrasia, a witch. Now in the book 3 we have Lady Knight Britomart, and her virtue is chastity. Lady Britomart, she is also among the knights of the King Arthur, and she has a love interest in Sir Artegall. In fact, in book 3 we have multiple love stories, and Lucifer is the main evil force in this book. So now we come to the book 4, and that book 4 represents the virtue of friendship, and this is the friendship of the Lady Amoret and Britomart, the same character from the book 3. Amoret has her love interest in Sir Scudamore. So in the book 3 we had Britomart, she had love interest in Sir Artegall, and now in book 4 we have Lady Amoret and her love interest Sir Scudamore. In fact, from the book 3 we had Britomart, she was looking for Sir Artegall, and in the book 4 we see them getting united. And then we come to the book 5, and there we have Sir Artegall as the main character and the virtue of justice. Like the other knights, Sir Artegall also becomes the victim of an evil queen, an Amazon queen, and he became a slave to her. And later we had Lady Britomart, she rescued him. And through this book, in the book 5, as we have the virtue of justice, in this book we have Edmund Spenser talking about the justice in a political way. Through allegorical representation, he is showing that England is becoming victorious over the neighboring country Spain. So remember, in book 5 we have Edmund Spenser talking about the political motives. And then in this book we have Sir Artegall killing the evil character, that is Duessa. Then we have book 6. In the book 6 we have Calidore as a virtue of courtesy, another knight Calidore. Actually, towards the end of the book 5 we had Sir Artegall, and he was attacked by a blatant beast. That beast is like a fierce dog with many tongues. And then Sir Calidore comes and he rescued Sir Artegall. And in this book we have Sir Artegall going for his love interest, and that is Pastorella. And later she got into trouble, and then Sir Calidore rescued her as well. So that is the story of book 6. Earlier Pastorella presented as the daughter of shepherds, but later she turns out to be the daughter of Sir Bellamore and Claribel. And one more thing, we have a second hero in this book as well, and that is Callipine. And finally we come to the book 7th, that is Incomplete Mutabilities, and in that we have 2 cantos only. This book was published in the year 1609 with all the other 6 books, and it has 2 distinctive narratives, and it is concluded with a Sabbath prayer. Now what is Sabbath prayer? Actually, Sabbath is the time when people take a rest from their work, like one day in a week. So that is Sabbath day, like we have Sunday. So on that particular day of rest, when the people perform a special prayer, that is Sabbath prayer. In this book we don't have much about the knights, rather it talks about the story in the heaven, where we have the mutability attempt to challenge the divine hierarchy, in which we have the Jove as a ruler in the heaven. So remember, book 1 to book 6 talks about the knights, and the book 7 talk about the mutability attempts in the heaven. So that is all about the main plot line of this book, Faerie Queene. So in the book 1 to book 7 we have a few of the important characters in each of the book. In the book 1 we have Red Cross Knight, in the book 2 we have Sir Gawain, in the book 3 we have Lady Britomart, in book 4 we have Lady Amoretta. Okay, there are other fellow characters like Sir Scudamore and Sir Artegall. In book 5 we have Sir Artegall and with the courtesy of justice. So with each of these characters you should remember their quality or the virtue they represent. Again I repeat, Sir Red Cross Knight represent holiness, Sir Gawain represent temperance, Britomart represent chastity, and then we have in book 4 Lady Amorette and Britomart, both they represent the friendship, and in book 5 we have Sir Artegall representing justice, and in book 7 we have, in book 6 we have Sir Calidore representing the virtue of courtesy. So that's it for this book, Faerie Queene, and now we have a few questions. So let's start with these questions. The first, Faerie Queene is based on which book? That is Les Morte d'Arthur. So it is on King Arthur. So the Les Morte d'Arthur is also on King Arthur. So just try to recall. We have discussed this book in brief. Who has written this book? Yes, Thomas Malory. Try to remember that Thomas Malory has written Les Morte d'Arthur, and that serves as a source for Faerie Queene and also for the Ideals of the King. Ideals of the King by Lord Alfred Tennyson in the 19th century. The next question, Red Cross Knight represents the virtue of holiness and truth. The next question, who is a virgin female warrior in Faerie Queene? And the answer is Lady Britomart. The next question, in book 1 Red Cross Knight gets a reward, and what is the reward? From Una's parents, and that is the hands of Una for marriage and also her parents' kingdom. The next question, what is the name of the book 7 in Faerie Queene? That is Mutability, and that is written in 2 cantos. It is only a fragment, not a complete work. The next question, Faerie Queene celebrates what? It celebrates the Queen Elizabeth and also the Protestant faith in Christianity. The next question, which are the 2 characters representing the Queen Elizabeth in Faerie Queene? We have, that is Belphoebe and the Queen Gloriana. And actually how we get to know that they are representing? The letter which I told you that he wrote to Sir Walter Raleigh, in that letter he has mentioned this fact that these 2 characters are modeled or representing the Queen Elizabeth. The next question, Red Cross Knight in the House of Holiness learns his repentance and the way to heaven. From whom? That is Dame Kalia. In fact, the question was much deeper than this, that they asked that what were the names of her 3 daughters. So what were the names of the 3 daughters of Dame Kalia? Actually that is terribly deeper question. So the answer is Fidelia, Speranza and Carissa, and their virtues are, for Fidelia we have faith, for Speranza we have hope, and for Carissa we have charity. And one more question, that is a typical one, in that we have, what metaphor does Edmund Spenser employ in Faerie Queene? Book 1, Canto 12, to frame his tale and to describe the relationship between the tale and its readers. And the right answer is of a ship filled with jolly mariners. Actually this question is asking that Edmund Spenser has used a metaphor, and in that metaphor he is talking about his tale that he is writing and also about the readers who will read this poem. So he is saying that the metaphor which he has applied on them, that is of a ship filled with jolly mariners. Indeed, that was a tough question, and that is the speciality of the UGC NET exam, that sometimes you get a question about which you can't really make an idea from where it comes. Anyway, that's enough for this lesson, and try to go through this lesson once or twice. And if you could remember about the main plot line, just try to remember the 6 main characters in each of the book and their virtues, and also the main points which I discussed before the main plot line, and also the previous year questions which I discussed in the last a few minutes. So that is all for this lesson, and in the next lesson we shall discuss some of the minor works of Edmund Spenser. Thanks a lot for watching this lesson. Have a great day and keep learning English literature